Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education to order. It's March 26th at 5:30 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as our acknowledgement of tribal land. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el simbología de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. We acknowledge that our Board of Education meeting is taking place on occupied indigenous land. We acknowledge the Tesuque Pueblo lands and other tribal lands on which we stand. We honor these people, past, present, and future. We acknowledge the history and ongoing colonization of where we are sitting right now in New Mexico and in our country. We acknowledge our own place in the story of colonization. Thank you very much. We move on to approval of the agenda. Superintendent, are there any changes we need?
There are no changes.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move for approval. I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we've approved the agenda. Moving on to introduction of interpreter, Deputy Superintendent.
Para asistencia de traducción en español, la señora Peña te ayudará.
Okay, now we are on to public forum. We do have our Google Meet option online for public forum. We've also been emailed the comments. Mr. Beta.
President Noble, Superintendent Dr. Griffin. We have 6 in-house speakers today. Let me go over the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education Public Forum ground rules. One sec, I'm gonna unmute so they can hear back at home also. No one's on there, but just in case. Okay, here we go. Public forum includes online and or virtual participation as needed, as well as in-person comments when the board holds in-person meetings. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. No sharing of time. Self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. You will receive a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. Public commentary and dialogue are allowed only during the public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it's on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board, Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. Please do not discuss employee matters which may result in disciplinary action. Instead, notify the employee's supervisor, the Human Resources Department, or the superintendent. And with that, I'd like to call up our first speaker, Claire Love.
Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Griffin, and district team. I want to thank you, first of all, for taking the time to listen to me this evening. Earlier this week, I sent out an email as a call to action regarding the 2026-2027 calendar. When I counted the days, I only counted the 9 additional days for teachers for PD, planning and prep, and parent-teacher conferences. I then added that 9 additional days to the 175 instructional days, which would have put us over the 182-day contract limit by 2 days. I was concerned, so I contacted the NEA in order to get clarification. One of the board members encouraged me to get my coworkers to email or speak to you tonight in opposition. So I used my professional connections to spread the word to oppose the calendar. 2 days later, I was informed by the NEA president, Alana Cartier, that the calendar was in fact only 182 days. And I like to trust, but also to verify, so I went back and I realized I did in fact make a mistake. When I counted the 9 additional days, I did not check that tiny little box where it says total instructional days to include 4 SEL days equals 173, not 175. So there's the 2-day discrepancy. I was wrong. Unfortunately, it was too late, and I had already emailed and riled up teachers across the district. For this, I am sincerely apologize. So if any of the other people are here to speak, I don't know what they're speaking on, but anyway, I sincerely apologize to the board and to all SFPS teachers who took their time to email or be here tonight. I am thoroughly embarrassed, and I apologize for wasting everyone's time. I want to end by acknowledging the amazing teachers and staff that we have here in Santa Fe. They are willing to take their time to stand up for teachers' rights, and that should inspire us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Andrea Lujan. Andrea?
Good evening. My name is Andrea Lujan, and I'm a proud mom of 3 children. I'm here to speak on behalf of Chaparral, so sorry. My youngest is a 6th grader who attends Chaparral since kindergarten. I also have a 17-year-old, also attended Chaparral, a 24-year-old who went through private school. I share this because I have experienced very different types of school environments, and I know firsthand what truly matters when it comes to our children. A community school is defined as a neighborhood hub, one that partners with families and local resources to provide support, opportunity, and engagement. But for me, that definition isn't just words on paper. That definition is Chaparral Elementary, and Chaparral Elementary has been brought to life through the leadership of Miss Erica Maestas. Sorry, I'm gonna put on my glasses, because obviously I need them. Since Miss Maestas walked through the door, everything changed, and the change has been for better. She didn't just step into a role, she became part of the community. She knows our students, their families, their siblings, and yes, even their pets by name. That might sound like something small, but it isn't. This connection, that is trust. This foundation of a true community. She is there in the mornings greeting families and setting the tone for the day. She is there in the evenings supporting events and showing up again and again. Her presence is consistent, and in today's world, consistency matters. Our kids need stability, our families need stability, and Ms. Maestas provides that every single day. What stands out most is her integrity. She leads with honesty, compassion, and accountability. She supports her staff, welcomes ideas, and creates environments where people feel valued and heard. This is the kind of leadership that doesn't just stay at the top. It has trickled down into every classroom with every teacher and every child. Chaparral has become more than a school. It is a safe place. It is a home. It is a community built on relationships, trust, and care. I mentioned earlier that I have paid for private education and did not do that alone for academics alone. I did this for the safety and peace of mind. Like many parents, I wanted to know my child would be cared for and protected. With that being said, Chaparral is that place without the price tag. This is powerful. That is rare. Chaparral is not just a school, it is a family, and Mrs. Maestas is the heart of it. She is the difference, the teachers are the difference, the community is the difference, and that difference matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is James Delgado.
Greetings and thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. As many of you know, the lead principal position in any elementary school is vital to the continual success of any student. This critical leadership role doesn't just begin when the first bell rings in the morning or end later that afternoon at the last bell. No, good principals are always planning and strategizing 24/7 on how to make their schools even better by thinking ahead and by continually honing their leadership skills. I'm here tonight to speak briefly about the principal of Chaparral Elementary, Erica Maestas. My wife and I have had the fortune of knowing Erica for quite some time now. I first recall meeting her while attending the Santa Fe Community College together in the mid-90s. In addition to this, we have also had the pleasure of attending the same church here in Santa Fe over the last few years as well. A few years ago, we were blessed to know that Erica had become the principal of Chaparral Elementary. And since she began, we have been blessed to watch her blossom and thrive in her position. If I may, let me relay a few of the school's accomplishments under Erica's guidance. An increase in reading proficiency by 14% over the last 2 years. That's amazing. Erica and her staff have developed many community partnerships. All of her classrooms are fully staffed with licensed professionals. A robust culture of family and parental engagement has been created and continues to thrive to date. She has a stable and happy staff. That's important. Daily in-school and after-school tutoring for students was established and continues on successfully to this day. There are 3 family institutes, one for grandparents, parents, and one for kindergarten and first grade families. Her wider involvement includes attending the students' basketball games and dance recitals, just to name a few. I've witnessed that. Basketball game, Chaparral went undefeated. Awesome team. My nephew's on that team. Watch out for that guy, Cole. He is awesome. But Erica's almost always at those games, in addition to other functions, school functions. And finally, a full school distribution and a full school snack distribution for Thanksgiving and winter breaks have been mainstays under Erica's tenure. In closing, we should be very grateful as a community to have someone like Erica Maestas as a principal here in Santa Fe. She is an amazing person. May God bless you all and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Miguel Acosta.
Madam President, members of the board, and Madam Superintendent, Dr. Griffin. I wish I was here to talk about basketball, right, and about an amazing school like Chaparral. I'm here to talk about another amazing school whose name may change tonight. These last couple of weeks have been very difficult for our community nationwide, not just here in Santa Fe. And I'm glad, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about this. I'll start off by saying that Dolores Huerta has asked not to have schools or anything named after her, because as she has always insisted, this has never been about a person, this is about a movement. And those are the kinds of things that we should respect and we should honor. We should also talk, as we consider removing the name of a rapist, accused rapist, from a school. We don't want to erase the legacy of the work that he did. So we want to be clear. His name should be erased should not be erased from our history. His work as an organizer, as a union leader, and the accomplishments that he helped build alongside thousands of farm workers continues to be a part of who we are, needs to be a part of our community. And not just our curriculum, and not just him. This is about broader Raza movements for social justice. Movements that are still alive, still shaping our communities, and we're still fighting for dignity and for equity. Like many people, we now know that we always knew he wasn't perfect, nobody is, but we know the extent of some of his trespasses. But we already teach about individuals like that. We teach about slave owners, we teach about people who still maintain systems of racism and oppression, who have committed violence, who continue to commit violence. We have people that work for the district that commit violence against people, sexual assaults and what have you. And we have the tradition in public education of moving people from school to school rather than firing because we have a shortage. That becomes the excuse for maintaining predators on our staffs. Our students deserve to see themselves in the curriculum, to learn the real histories of our struggles of leadership, culture, and of resistance that comes from our own communities. We need culturally appropriate programming. We need soccer in our schools. We've got a soccer program going right now at Cesar Chavez, and I think we've got a third of the kids signed up. Every Friday, if you stop by there, you'll see some amazing activities, and all their families are there as well. We need folklorico in all our schools. So instead of reducing the conversation to the name of a building, we want to offer something more meaningful. Create a social justice and cultural education center at Cesar Chavez that could be a resource for the entire district. A place where students and community can learn about farm worker movement, Raza organizing, ongoing work of social justice in communities, a place for learning, for dialogue, for youth leadership, something living, not just symbolic. This is about whether we tell the truth and whether we value our histories equally, and whether we're willing to invest in an education that actually prepares young people to understand the world they're inheriting and to change it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rosario Torres.
Buenas noches. This is difficult for me. If I don't address you properly, it's not intentional. It's just I want to get through this without losing it. And thank you for this opportunity. I am Chicana, Mexicana, a citizen by birth. I came to this country on my own. My family was somewhere else. Although I'm not an immigrant, I know what it is to come alone and find your way through. This school board honors the land that we're on. And in this land, women have been treated poorly over centuries. Currently, Native women are still disappeared, violated, killed, and here we are. What I would like to propose is that as part of our land acknowledgement, that we consider asking Native women in this community to be part of the discussion as to what our school should be named from this point forth. To honor women that have fought the fights, along with men, silently, without men, and that continue to be used, abused, paid less, ignored, thrown in ditches, and disappeared. I think we owe our Native women, myself included, because I am part Native, this kind of recognition. I don't know what the name should be, but I think that collectively we can come up with a name that also considers what Miguel just proposed. but making sure that women are honored in that process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michelle Katz.
Hello. Hello, President Noble, Superintendent Griffin, Santa Fe Public School Board members, and Cabinet. My name is Michelle Katz. I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director of Communities and Schools of New Mexico. I'm speaking today as a community partner, a longtime educator and advocate for students, families, and Santa Fe Public Schools. I met Erica Maestas in 2016 when I was a school counselor at Kearney. She was an integral part of the Kearney administrative team. She brought incredible, innovative, and thoughtful ideas to education and community well-being. And most of all, she was welcoming and supportive to me and everyone she came into contact with. She quickly became an inspiration to those around her. I have watched her become a vice principal and a principal over the years, and when she landed at Chaparral Elementary School 7 years ago, I was so thrilled because I could not think of a better place for her to bring her talents and treasures to a community that could truly benefit from her skills and extraordinary vision. Erica is not only a principal who emphasizes the vital role of academics to her students, she is a community advocate who promotes growth through the well-being of her students, their families, and the school staff she serves. She brings a meaningful, trauma-informed care approach with clarity and strategy. She proactively finds ways to provide resources to families in ways that leaves shame at the door, and always has a lens of equity in her view. Beyond the resourcing through basic needs, she also aims to ensure that families develop a sense of self and belonging, exploring ways of growth to better their family system and thus the betterment of and health of the community overall. Communities and Schools of New Mexico work and value is predicated on two essential elements. One, relationship, and two, the knowledge that all students, and I would say all human beings, need a consistent, reliable, and trusting adult in their lives. I know there is a decision to be made at the leadership of Chaparral Elementary School, and I stand before you with the hopes that you keep Erica as principal, not only because she has proven to be a principal leading with her heart, invested in profoundly impacting relationships, but also because she is a stellar example of what a consistent and trusted leadership can do to transform a community. By retaining her as principal, this will only further enhance and deepen the connection between school and community while also increasing meaningful outcomes on many important priorities at the school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And our last speaker tonight is Becca Hullock.
Dear Superintendent and members of the school board, my name is Becca Hulick, and I serve as the Communities and Schools Student Success Facilitator at Chaparral Elementary. Thank you to the superintendent and her team for taking the time to visit Chaparral and EJ Martinez staff this past Monday afternoon. We genuinely appreciate the effort to communicate with us directly. However, many of us left that meeting feeling more anxious than reassured. The lack of clear answers regarding leadership combined with statements that staff will have jobs, just not necessarily where they want to be, did not ease concerns and intensify them. When staff expressed worry about being displaced, the response, "It's about the kids and families, right?" did not feel reassuring. Instead, it left many of us feeling unheard and uncertain about our futures. I understand the district will be conducting principal interviews as part of this transition, and I respect that process and all candidates involved. As you move forward, I urge you to give strong weight to demonstrated impact and proven leadership. Under Ms. Maestas' leadership, Chaparral is not just functioning, it is thriving. We've seen measurable academic growth, including a 14% increase in reading, alongside a school culture where students feel safe, supported, and excited to learn. That kind of progress doesn't happen by accident. It comes from strong, consistent leadership. What sets Ms. Maestas apart is her ability to build community. She leads with intention, inclusivity, and respect. She brings people together and ensures that students, families, and staff feel seen and valued. Especially during a transition like a school merger, that ability to unify a community is critical. On a personal level, Ms. Maestas has been instrumental in fully integrating communities and schools into the fabric of Chaparral. From my very first day, she made it clear that my role was not that of an outside contractor, but a valued member of the school community. Because of her leadership, I felt like part of the staff immediately. I felt like a Chaparral Firebird. That sense of belonging has allowed me to build strong relationships with students, families, and staff, and to be more effective in supporting the needs of our school. This is a direct reflection of the inclusive and intentional culture she has created. As you conduct interviews, I ask that you prioritize not just vision, but use evidence. Evidence of leadership that is already making a difference for students and families. Ms. Maestas has shown that impact every day at Chaparral. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Noble, Dr. Griffin, and members of the board, we have nobody online to address public forum. Sure.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board but didn't get a chance to sign up for public forum ahead of time? Okay, we'll go ahead and close it after our next speaker.
Miriam Luano is our next speaker.
Hello. Good afternoon, members of the school board. I want to do this in Spanish, but I don't know if you have interpreter. I have some families here to need the interpreter, but let me try to do it in English. So my name is Miriam Luevano. I'm working in air care. Also, I'm here like a mother and member of this community in the South Side. For many years, our families have expressed a desire for our school to teach the history of the people in the more complete way. One that includes not only know the eras or figures, but also the many individuals, especially women, who contribute have not always been fully recognized. Today, we find ourselves in an important moment of reflection of community. We believe this is the time to approach the truth with respect, care, and responsibility. In that spirit, we would like to speak about Cesar Chavez Elementary School. We recognize the history significance of Cesar Chavez and his contributions. At the same time, we believe it's important to broaden how his history is told. We know the movement was collective in force, building by workers, families, he organized, and also many women. This is not only erase the story or remove the story, but about enriching its presenting in more fully for all students and families. With that in mind, we respectfully propose open and community dialogue process to consider it to change the name of the Cesar Chavez Elementary School in a way that reflect the collect values and diverse contribution within the movement. Additionally, we propose to create a cultural and social justice learning center in the school. as resource for the district where the student can engage with those history in deeper, also families, because some families know about the history. A lot of families come with me in the soccer trainings in Fridays and say, Miriam, what's going on? What's going on with Cesar Chavez? What's going on with Dolores Huerta? So I think so this is a good opportunity to open for the families and explain about this, why this school have this name. We believe the education is stronger when it's root, inclusion, truth, and respect. Our students, families receive to that opportunity. Thank you for your time and considerations.
Yeah. Ms. Bueno, si quiere otra vez en español, por favor.
Let me looking for the version. Okay. Buenas tardes otra vez a todos. Gracias, miembros del board. Mi nombre es Miriam Luébano. Soy una coordinadora comunitaria en Erker Poder Familiar y también soy una madre y soy parte de la comunidad de Southside. Mis hijos fueron a la escuela de César Chávez. Por muchos años, nuestras familias han expresado el deseo de que en nuestras escuelas se enseñe la historia de nuestra gente de una manera más completa. Una historia que incluye no solo a figuras reconocidas, sino también a muchas personas, especialmente mujeres, que han contribuido y que no siempre han sido visibilizadas o valoradas. Hoy nos encontramos en un momento importante de reflexión como comunidad. Creamos que este es un momento para acercarnos a la verdad con respeto, cuidado y responsabilidad. En este espíritu queremos referirnos a la Escuela Primaria César Chávez. Reconocemos la importancia histórica de César Chávez y sus contribuciones. Al mismo tiempo, creemos que también es valioso ampliar la forma en que contamos esta historia. Reconociendo que el movimiento de los trabajadores agrícolas fue un esfuerzo colectivo, construido por trabajadores, familias y organizadores y muchas mujeres. No se trata de borrar la historia o de quitarla, sino de enriquecer y presentarla de manera más completa para nuestros estudiantes y sus familias, porque ellos no saben la historia. Muchos de ellos han preguntado, Miriam, ¿qué pasó? ¿Por qué quieren quitar el nombre? ¿Por qué mi hijo dice esto de César Chávez? Queremos saber más. ¿Qué pasó con Dolores Huerta? Ni los estudiantes ni las mamás de César Chávez tienen claro esto. Por ello, respetuosamente, proponemos abrir un proceso de diálogo con la comunidad para considerar el nombre de la Escuela Primaria César Chávez, de una manera que refleje los valores colectivos y la diversidad de contribuciones dentro del movimiento. Asimismo, proponemos la creación de un centro de aprendizaje cultural y de justicia social en la escuela como un recurso para todo el distrito, no solamente para César Chávez, donde los estudiantes y sus familias pueden aprender sobre estas historias de una manera profunda, honesta, clara y representativa. Creemos que la educación tiene la oportunidad de crecer y fortalecerse cuando se construye desde la inclusión, la verdad y el respeto. Nuestros estudiantes y sus familias merecen esa oportunidad. Muchas gracias por su tiempo y consideración.
Muchas gracias.
President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Griffin, that concludes public forum.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to our union update. Is there anyone here from the union to update the board? Please, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Marty Rieger. President Noble, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Griffin. I'm Marty Rieger, membership chair for NEA Santa Fe, and Alana Cartier wanted to apologize for not making it this evening. NEA Santa Fe is currently participating in collective bargaining agreement negotiations with the district. So far, it is positive and continues to move forward. At the moment, we are in discussions with ancillary staff to gain a better understanding of the positions and responsibilities to better serve their needs. NEA Santa Fe will be holding elections in April for the positions of President, Executive Vice President, Employee Rights Chair, Treasurer, and Political Action Chair. Terms are for 2 years and begin June 1st, 2026. candidates must be a dues-paying member in good standing for 2 years prior for president and executive vice president. All other candidates must be NEA Santa Fe members for 1 year prior. Additionally, there are also 4 NEA member positions open for National Representative Assembly, which will be held in Denver over the 4th of July week. To submit nominations, contact Julie Wen. Her email is nea.sf.communications@gmail.com. Additionally, NEA Santa Fe will be conducting a membership blitz at the end of April and into early May. The union will be visiting schools and talking with employees about NEA Santa Fe and sharing opportunities to participate in the union. Finally, Read Across America continues in our schools this month with Aspen pre-K through first grade students recently receiving a free copy of the book Fry Bread by New Mexico author Kevin Noble Maillard. Testing is nearly finished across the district, and I know everyone is looking forward to spring break next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll, with applause, go ahead and move on to board announcements and follow-up. Anything from the board? Yes, Board Member Blaya.
Yeah, thank you, President Noble, Vice President Bozea, Superintendent. I just wanted to update the board that I had the honor to speak at a quantum computing conference this week. It was sponsored by UNM and New Mexico State. It was basically about how quantum computing can transform underserved areas and things like that as an economic kind of boon, which, as you all know, I've been trying to kind of talk about. And at the heart of this conference, Senator Padilla did produce some introductory remarks on Tuesday, and he's very committed to continuing the governor's call towards quantum computing in New Mexico. It is going to become an environmental, economic stimulus within our communities. I did refer to the fact that we are potentially looking at a quantum computing resolution within our schools, and the response was overwhelming, especially from the UNM and state folks. So as part of meeting with Deputy Superintendent and Superintendent as we move forward to how to pilot it potentially, both organizations did ask that I send it to them for their review. I did inform them that Lionel and Cindy did too, but they did. It was actually kind of funny because, you know, a lot of times you don't see a lot of nerds kind of fighting, but we actually got into an open, there was about 300 people arguing openly about linear algebra and whether or not it should be part of curriculum. And it was literally hilarious. I actually had to step back and say, I've never seen people get this mad who would never get this mad before. So it was pretty cool. So I just wanted to update the board and let everybody know that it was a really great honor, and it is something that is coming.
Thank you. Any other board announcements and follow-up? Okay, moving on, we'll go ahead with superintendent announcements and follow-up. Dr. Griffin.
Thank you, President Noble, board members. I just have a few. At E.J. Martinez and Chaparral, our principals are leading a thoughtful and engaging transition as they begin integrating students during fourth quarter. It's grounded in Helen Keller's words, "Alone we do so little, together we do so much." And they are creating meaningful opportunities to connect through initiatives like Togetherness Tuesdays and Reading Buddy Fridays. These efforts are designed to build relationships and foster a sense of community. We also anticipate that it will be open for families to be able to come together and be part of this important transition. Moving forward, as we continue with the merger of E.J. Martinez and Chaparral, identifying leadership for a newly merged school with stakeholder input is an important part of the process. At the same time, we have several principal openings across the district due to promotions, retirements, and one out-of-state relocation, which provides an important opportunity to be thoughtful regarding leadership across the schools. Principal positions will be posted this Friday, March 27th, and will close on April 10th. We will have interviews scheduled for April 15th and 16th for all open positions. including the leadership role for the merged site. Interview committees will be formed after spring break and will include representation from each school community. As part of our digital wellness resolution, we surveyed all K-2 principals regarding whether student Chromebooks should remain in the classroom rather than going home daily. There was an overwhelming support for this shift, so we will be purchasing charging carts for each K-2 classroom to support this implementation, while allowing families for the option to opt in to take devices home if they choose. And last, finally, Partners in Education. I want to highlight that our Partners in Education Foundation will host the Teachers Who Inspire banquet on May 12th. And I encourage our community to join us in celebrating these outstanding educators across the district by purchasing tickets. This fundraiser supports teacher grants, field trips, teacher appreciation, teacher opportunity scholarships, and artworks. Thank you, Board President, board members.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions on the superintendent announcements? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our presentation on the Keeping Families Safe work. Dr. Griffin.
Deputy Romero and Chief Yabera.
Good evening, Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Griffin. We are excited to present to you tonight updates around the Resolution 2024-2025-9 and the Keeping Families Safe Initiative, SFPS, and Immigration. This very first slide, I just want to point out that it is hyperlinked for you in the title if you would like to go back to the original resolution. But just as an overview for our community members tonight, the Resolution 24-25-9 reaffirming SFPS as a safe haven. This was reaffirmed as part of acknowledging the previous resolution, 2016-2017-14, that was titled Resolution Reconfirming Santa Fe Public Schools as Sanctuary Schools. Under this resolution, we reaffirmed SFPS properties as safe spaces for all of our students and families, that they are free from discrimination and ensure equal access to all opportunities for our students. Within the resolution, we were directed to maintain training on and implement policies that support student privacy. We were also directed to define protected areas in and around our school sites, conduct ongoing assessments of student needs, maintain very clear pathways for parents, guardians, community members, and students to report to us any complaints, concerns, or communication, and to continue the District Equity Council work, which you'll hear more about a little bit later in this presentation, as well as continue collaboration with our governmental agencies. Since the time that this was passed, some of the items that we've done to maintain this commitment to the resolution, we do have an annual training for all of our leaders. This includes principals, assistant principals, directors, and assistant directors. This reviews any updated privacy expectations, policies, or requirements of the district. We do have ongoing safety and security trainings throughout the school year at each of our school sites. This resolution has been sent out annually to our all district staff district-wide. We continue the District Equity Council. We have continued a panorama culture and climate survey. We initially launched this during our pandemic year, but we found that it lent itself to this resolution and continued to survey our school sites for student perception around the culture and climate of their schools. We also participate in a variety of intergovernmental groups. I listed 2 of them here, which include the City of Santa Fe's Children and Youth Commission, as well as the Santa Fe Community Action Team, known as CAT.
Ms. Ibarra, can I just pause you real quick?
Yes.
What the heck is a panorama culture and climate survey?
It is an equity-based survey. Actually, we launched it in the pandemic. They had been known for creating surveys that allow us to view equity issues around the district in order to support schools in an appropriate way. It really has some in-depth questions around culture and climate. We survey our students, and then we provide optional surveys for our family and our staff members to gauge where our strengths are in each school site, and then to also encourage and support where we need to put in additional resources at each of the school sites. We did this through 2023, I think, and then PED also picked up the survey. And so now they support us in administering that survey on an annual basis.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This next slide, again, hyperlinked if you want to look back at the Keeping Families Safe SFPS and Immigration Initiative. You as a board just did this in January, and essentially within this you were reaffirming the resolution that I just spoke to, and you requested an update on the actions that have been taken. Within it, you also designated an immigrant liaison at each of the school sites. You wanted to establish and implement training protocols for lockdowns, notifications, responses, and activity involving ICE or other agencies in or near our school sites. And you wanted to continue the collaboration with community agencies to provide resources and supports. So next, Deputy Superintendent Romero will speak to our updates on keeping families safe.
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Griffin, it was very exciting to be able to collaborate with all the departments, because it takes legal counsel, it takes security, it takes teaching and learning, student wellness, to kind of organize. And so I also worked very closely with the union in drafting an MOU, in reviewing the resolution, looking at the initiative, and so that was a great collaboration in coming up to the resolution. That's also hyperlinked. But some of the highlights from that resolution are, we wanted the role to be supportive, informational, and educational in nature. The role was to, of course, serve as a consistent contact for family questions, sharing district-approved information and resources, facilitating referrals and vetted community organizations, and then supporting culturally responsive and trauma-informed family engagement. We also wanted to make it very clear that this role should have some boundaries around it. We are not there to provide legal advice or interpret immigration law. We have experts in the community to provide that, and we have connections with the resources we provide, that we're not supposed to collect or document any type of immigration status, and we're not, of course, able to release student or family information in violation of FERPA. So after the MOU was created, we met with principals. We have a weekly principal meeting, and at that time we were able to share the initiative, the MOU. We asked school site leadership to identify a person on campus who's probably already in that role and supporting the school. So if it could be a counselor, it could be a teacher, it could be an assistant principal. And if they did not have that person, to go and ask for volunteers and people in their school community that would be interested. So after those meetings, we were then, of course, charged with providing some really solid training for these liaisons. And I think it was last week, it seems so long ago. We had our first liaison family training. We held it at BF Young. And this is just a list, as I mentioned, of all the departments that got together to ensure that we were providing a holistic approach and support for these new roles in our schools. And then this next slide is just the agenda. We were super honored to have President Kate Noble provide an opening there with our members, our liaisons, and we had icebreakers. We gave a historical background of the resolution and the initiative. We went over the MOU, of course, and confidentiality, safety and security. We had Mr. Abeta there and his team to talk about communication and media guidance. And so it was just a really great opportunity to have all these very important people that are representing our families there all together, because there was a commonality and they were able to talk to each other and learn from each other about things that they're doing at their school sites. So this is an ongoing process. It's exciting because it's new, and it's an opportunity to learn and grow. And now I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Plaza, who will be talking about some of the resources that she discussed during our training last week, so that our liaisons could immediately have access to if there were questions from family and guide them in the right direction.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Romero. Buenas tardes, Presidenta Noble, Vicepresidenta Voces, miembros de la Junta Directiva y la Superintendenta Doctora Griffin. This complements some of the resources that Office of Student Wellness and Language and Culture did. This is a community resource Padlet, a newcomers Padlet that was originally created when we had a big influx of immigrants and refugees from Afghanistan and from Central Americans. So that was the original intent of this Padlet. And it has served over the years different purposes. So it was perfect to share now with our family liaisons, because it has categories. If you open the link, you'll see that it has from food and housing to transportation, health and wellness, education, and so on. And it includes resources from Santa Fe, the county, the state, even a couple of resources national, and is constantly updated. I learned from resources from the Santa Fe Community Action Team that I integrate over the time. So it's vetted. And for us in our district, newcomers is an umbrella term that includes immigrants, includes refugees, and includes unaccompanied youth. So it's perfect for this setting. And it was shared with all the liaisons. That way they wouldn't have to be scrambling for other resources. We have them all there available. The next slide is about the Equity Council. Like it was mentioned before, the Equity Council in Santa Fe has been ongoing for many years. Actually, Santa Fe Public Schools is a trailblazer with Equity Council. In our Equity Council, we have staff members from different departments like Language and Culture, Exceptional Student Services, Native American Student Services, Curriculum Instruction, and then we have partners like Somos Un Pueblo Unido, a student from Capital, a student from Santa Fe High, a parent, and now is a requirement. Is required by PED for all the districts to ensure that the work of the Martinez-Jassy lawsuit is carried out by experts at the local level. However, like I mentioned, for Santa Fe Public Schools, it was created way before that, and it would just continue the work. And the purpose of this Equity Council is to identify barriers to student success, and then examine current district practices and make recommendations that can shape education that reflect the needs of our district. So that work is continuing, but we wanted to bring it up because it's part of our next steps that Crystal Ibarra will go over now.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention that Board Member Blea served on the Equity Council for a significant period of time, so we appreciate your contributions to that. Just to wrap it up, our next steps, we are continuing to follow up with our family liaisons just to identify and support any emerging needs that might come up during this time. We continue to convene the District Equity Council and participate in the community partner meetings. We are doing ongoing assessments of each of our school communities just to ensure we're meeting the needs. And we are currently working on a data collection process in which we can maintain the confidentiality of anybody that is reaching out to liaisons, but lets us accurately record the number and any types of resources that are being requested. So with that, we have many members around me that participated in this training, and we all stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board? Go ahead, Board Member Blaya.
First of all, thank you guys. Really, that was a really good presentation. I've gotten to do a lot of cool things in my life and in my career, and getting to be on the Diversity and Equity Council, now the Equity Council, was one of the things that I actually look forward to doing, the meetings and stuff like that. I always had a good time, especially when we had them over at BF Young. They were fun, they were informative, and I learned just how much this team cares about the students in our community. From a health, safety, linguistic, access to education. And so with all that, I really do appreciate getting that opportunity to be a part of the team with you guys. The question I have is in terms of how this has been rolled out to this point, have you guys gotten any feedback from the community? I'm curious if Mr. Acosta has had any chance to feedback, or has anybody fed back at all into this process?
Through our office, we haven't received any feedback from the family liaisons that they're getting contacted for these items. We did, the same day we did the training, we did roll out a message to all of our staff as well as the public. So we'll just continue to keep a pulse on that to see whether or not the community is reaching out to them. But that's where we stand now.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the work you guys do. From a bilingual education perspective, it's one of the great privileges to know the work that you guys do, and it's just an honor to have been part of your team. So thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this, and really loved being able to do the welcome to the family liaison training. So thank you all for including me in that. On that note, I sort of wonder, is there a plan for family liaisons to, I mean, as I think we talked about in the room, I really hope that this can be as drawing from the roots in the community as possible. I know you've all worked to do that. Is there a plan for the family liaisons to share what they're hearing from families and experiencing, problem solve together in an ongoing way, and ideally even from all that they're all the listening they're doing to the families in each of our schools, feeding up to the leadership, administration, and even the board in terms of issues that need to be addressed in this sort of ongoing improvement to keep working on this?
President Noble, I think the team has discussed, we have discussed, how can we bring them back maybe sometime in May? It is kind of a short window, but it would be super helpful to organize with them again and just kind of see where they are at and see the supports and things that we maybe need to provide for them, but and look at processes, and that's part of it is gathering like the data and utilizing that to also inform where we go and how we evolve.
That's wonderful. I love to hear that, just given that obviously we are coming to the end of a school year, but to figure out what we can learn this year, take it into next year. Slightly more basically, I'm going to keep asking for term definitions, but I don't actually know what a Padlet is, and if there is an opportunity for resources to be added by family liaisons, or how that collaboration and even information might happen digitally.
Yes, 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 and yes. And actually, some of the family liaisons that we have in our schools, people that stepped up for this role, are our community school coordinators. So they're already knowing the family. So a Padlet is, it contains all the info, instead of like having a whole document that you put over links and everything. It's, if you click on the hyperlink, you'll see that it's categories like in columns. And then if you click on a document, it expands. So you can add documents, you can add links, you can add videos, you can add websites. So it's kind of like a little platform that we all have access to because it's one of the apps that we have in our ClassLink as a district. It's easy to use once you get into it. It's intuitive. And then all you have, like all the documents, you just click up that, and then you can print, you can download. And it's a good way to continue in adding them in just one place. It's like a one-stop shop.
And can folks add to it themselves? Does it require?
So right now, I'm the one adding the
Okay.
information because I created the Padlet.
Mhm.
However, when I've received feedback about, like even during that training, and one of the groups was like, oh, do you have Las Cumbres that now is offering the Welcome Center and it's offering legal services? Yes, it's under health, but we can put it under legal services. So I told the family liaisons if they knew of any organization and any resource that was not in the Padlet, we can easily add. Now, I could give access to the 28 family liaisons to add. We share with them that the resources, they have to be vetted and they have to be trusted, right, organizations. But yeah, it's like a dynamic place where you can be adding, there's a little plus, and you can be adding to the column, or you can be deleting if something is not, like, is a website is not functional anymore.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
And is everyone, there's a family liaison, I think, identified at every school. Is everybody within the Santa Fe Public Schools system, the technology system? We didn't have anybody who can't access that.
Yes, it's available on the website. So it's actually under our Office of Family and Community Engagement. It has been hosted in the newcomers page. And now that the communications is kind of like organizing and cleaning up and beautifying the SFPS website, they might have a link somewhere else, because one of the feedback that I got is like, how do families access this? And I'm usually showing them to them. The liaisons know how to, but we want an easy access for the family to look at is like, where do I find a resource for housing? Where do I find a resource for food? But the liaisons, we had some working time where they were able to access the Padlet and see what was there, and then kind of like play with it for
Great.
quite some time.
And I'm taking a little bit of a jump here, but if someone in the community saw something really missing, they could probably email you and.
Correct, or my department, or yes, and
Yep.
then I just add it immediately.
Wonderful. Last question, I think Vice President Bozé has one. But just wondering if one of you or each of you, whoever wants to take it, would say a little bit more about what happened in the room. Obviously, I got to be there in the beginning and leave. I was very excited. It looked like folks were really engaged, and I know we have a lot of people who have, in essence, already been doing this work in our schools in a maybe more informal way, but just wondering if you can say more of what you saw and felt in the room that day.
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Griffin. I was really inspired because some of the icebreakers that Jen Jevertson included really honed in on people just talking about themselves and having an opportunity to learn about the other person. So that was a great opportunity to kind of break the ice and see how, from my perspective, how we are all similar, and to recognize our differences in that process. I thought that was super helpful so that we could get into, some hard conversations that they may have had during that session. But I think the overall icebreaker activity was super helpful. As I said, we briefly went over the resolution. We went over the MOU, but there were lots of questions around confidentiality and privacy and security. That was really another huge piece in those conversations. And I'll let you add. I mean, if you guys saw other things.
We went over the rest of the sections. We had like some working pieces because we wanted the family liaisons to know other family liaisons in the district. So they had a chance to sit down in different groups to, for example, looking at the resources, ask questions, and at the end, we had extra time for them to walk through the pieces and ask questions. So it was part of it like kind of presentation style. And then the second half, there was more of a working, collaborative, asking questions type of session at the end. Do you want to add something about the last piece, though? And you have one of the pictures over there was showing the icebreaker when they were together.
Let's see, I'll go backwards. That's a picture of the icebreaker. I'll just mention that we put a lot of the technical items at the front of the agenda. The liaisons had so many great questions for our general counsel and our safety and security director. They were thoughtful, they were very engaged during that whole portion. And then I do think at the end, when they got to sit down and just connect and talk about the challenges or barriers that they're seeing at their school sites and connect with one another as support systems in that work, that was very helpful too. And then we just closed off with any additional questions that they might have for us and making sure that they knew that all of these people listed here are contacts and supports for them as they move through this work.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Vice President Posey.
Thank you, President Noble, Dr. Griffin, members of the board. Thank you for this presentation. It's really important information, and I'm really pleased to see how much work has gone in over these past few years. I do hope now that we have these family liaisons and this MOU that we'll continue to help get the word out. I mean, I saw the notice last week when it went out. I appreciate that. But making sure that everyone knows that these people are available in the schools, I think is really, really key. They're holding resources, and we want them to be utilized and connected to the people that need that support in the community. And I'm glad, because it was one of my questions, it sounds like all of those resources that are in the Padlet are also posted publicly so that anyone can access them without going through the family liaison, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
On the diversity, on,
Yes, the Family and Community Engagement webpage.
okay.
And we may be linking it closer to the front page for easier
I think
access.
that would be amazing. Let's not make it challenging for people to find resources. And I assume, I see there's one on the right that's in Spanish, but I assume that there are others that are in Spanish, or the page can be translated.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I would also love to have an update from the liaisons at, maybe even just the end of the year, as well as an update from the Equity Council on the stuff that they're working on. And, kudos. It sounds like you've built kind of this PLC with these family liaisons, the professional learning communities, and they can support each other and support our families and our students through that. And I really, really appreciate the work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Thanks for your work in the past, in the future, and all you and these folks do. Really appreciate it. We'll go ahead and move on to our action items and consideration of the consent agenda. Superintendent, you wanted to update us on one of the contracts that we are not considering, right?
Thank you, Board President. We are going to pull the ATEC Security Next Level contract, and we'll bring it to the board at a later date.
Okay, anything else to change or adjust on the consent agenda?
Board President, I do have a question on one of the budget adjustment requests.
Go ahead.
The bar, this Title I increase from the PED, is that at all related to the SEG changes? Okay, that's just Title I.
Correct.
Okay.
Deputy Romero, did you want to speak to that? Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It is just the carryover money for Title I specifically, not in the SEG.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I had one other question on the contracts list. Maybe this is implied here, but we need, it seems, an additional $500,000 in our substitutes contract. I assume that's because we spent the original allocation?
Board President Noble, yes, that is correct.
And this covers, I think I read, because I did go into the contract, the last quarter of the year. If we're approving it now, it seems like it's only 6 weeks. Or is some of it retroactive? I'd love to understand the time on this one.
That is for Board Member President Noble, Board Member Superintendent Griffin. That is for the remainder of the school year. We've had an increase in absences and therefore also had an increase in substitute fills.
Okay, and is there any method to arriving at this? This is an estimate as to what we'll need to get to the end of the year.
Yes, yes. And we received that from Regina, given the history of it and how much we've used for the year so far.
I'm sorry, who's Regina?
Mascarena, she's from Business Services, the
Got it.
accountant director, sorry.
Okay, so it's coming out of finance.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Go
President
ahead.
Noble, I'll just take a quick opportunity, if I may, to talk again about how much I dislike ESS and this huge amount of money that we're spending on our teacher contract substitute program. I'll approve it, but I don't like it.
Thank you.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda with the removal of the contract for ATEC Security Next Level as the superintendent stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we've approved the consent agenda. Moving on to action item B, the 2026-2027 school year calendar. Superintendent.
Deputy Romero, thank you.
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Griffin, tonight we come with our proposed calendar for the 26-27 school year. It reflects 173 days, instructional days, 182 contract days for teachers, which includes teacher planning, professional development, and of course, parent-teacher conferences. Previously, the PED would allow us to have 1 day of parent-teacher conferences that was considered instructional. That is no longer the case, according to the PED, but we are meeting the instructional hours for both elementary and for secondary. It's very similar to this school year. Our spring break is at the end of March. The only difference is, of course, the vernal holiday that Friday and then that Monday following Easter. But those were days that were removed from May. So this year we have 2 days off in May. The committee got together. It included principals, teachers, district staff, parents. We had a few parents also. We had 2 meetings within 3 weeks apart. We also provided a survey. Mr. Higley helped design a survey to reach out to families about the start time.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent. Any questions, thoughts from the board? Vice President Bozay.
President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Griffin, I mean, I don't love this calendar. I've been in a lot of communication with folks in the community, and people feel like we're just starting earlier and earlier. I feel like in past years we've gone up to the last week of May, and now we're ending a week earlier. It seems odd to me that spring break is covering a Friday and a Monday on the following week. Also kind of late in the year when it could be the 3rd week of March and cover, still cover some of the holidays that we're trying to be mindful of. In years past, we've talked about making sure that the sporadic days off or even some of the longer holidays are mindful of the other traditions in our community, including some of the Jewish holidays and as well as some of the Pueblo feast days, which one of our emails pointed out there are several feast days in the first week of August where folks are reporting back to school. So I just, you know, there's a variety of concerns about the calendar. As far as my opinion is, you know, parent-teacher conferences right after winter break. If you're hoping for participation, I just don't know that that's going to cut it. So I'm also sort of trying to summarize and relay the concerns that I've heard from the community about this draft that we've been presented with. Thank you.
May I add a few items? That was a discussion, the parent-teacher conference in January. Part of it was because the quarter ends December 18th, teachers felt it was really late to have parent-teacher conferences in January for students, being that the semester had started, and then at the secondary level, part of that was at semester, kids change courses at the start, and so that was some of the feedback that we got as far as the parent-teacher conference. And I also do want to add, we did look for opportunities in September and October for Jewish holidays and celebrating that, and they just were either in the middle of the week, so that was also looked at.
Deputy Romero, would you mind speaking to the committee's work with a possibility of starting later and what that would do to finals?
Sure. And part of the conversation was starting a week later, and with that, at the secondary level, kids would have to come back and take finals for courses that were in the fall and winter before they could transition over into their new classes. So if they switched classes that semester, and part of that, some students of the parents that were there, their kids said that's really hard to come back after a 2-week holiday to come back and take finals for a course and then starting a new class.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was part of the survey.
That was part of the survey. And with the survey, the results were, it was almost 50, it was split.
Like snow days.
I'm curious how the participation went on that survey. How you know, do you have a breakdown of the students versus parents versus staff?
We have the numbers. I don't know if, Michael, you could pull it up, and the number of people that participated. We did look at that in our last committee meeting. I don't have the numbers right now. Michael's going to look.
My general sense is that folks had lots of opinions that they weren't asked about. You know, it was, which start date do you want? And that was pretty much all that people got to weigh in on. So maybe if we're going to do surveys, we could ask for more information in the future if we want more engagement.
Good evening, Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Griffin. There were 1,848 responses to the survey. 1,235 of those were parents or guardians, and 764 were from staff.
And Deputy Superintendent Romero was correct in about 50-50 in terms of, because as I recall the question, it was, do you want a later start date where you take finals, well, and I have a high school student, so maybe that was to me, but where you take finals after the break, or do you want to start earlier and take finals before the break?
Correct.
50-50, just about, you said?
It was about 50-50. Do you want to give the percentages?
There was overall a slight preference for a later start date. Mm-hmm. And so the committee did take that into consideration, but looking at the practicality of it, moving the start date later created a discrepancy between the number of instructional days between the fall semester and the spring semester. So that would have necessitated the delay in the finals after returning back from winter break. And the committee just felt like having that time off during break away from the classroom and then coming back to finals after break would set up our high school students especially for an unfair disadvantage to taking their finals.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Can I ask specifically about the spring break and why it spans over 3 instructional weeks with a Friday before and a Monday after the week off?
Vice President Bozay, so Friday is a vernal holiday, Good Friday in the community. And then we were just trying to keep spring break the last week of March, also because of testing. We're trying to complete all of our testing before spring break, same for next school year. And then this year, as I said, we had a holiday in May. And what we are finding out, because this comes out after the fact, the College Board set their AP exams for May 4th. And so now we are working to find district coverage so that teachers don't have to come in and cover AP classes or testing. And so we thought maybe, and it is a very short month in May. I know part of the conversation last year was that it was a super long stretch from spring break and having all of April and all of May. There's 14 instructional days in May that we thought we could move those and attach it to spring break.
Okay.
Vice President, do you have any thoughts on, or any suggestions on what to do, or is there any, and I can let you think about that for a moment while I make some comments. I know I've seen every year it's a struggle and the calendar's never perfect, and that balancing 4 quarters things and two halves, 4 quarters and 2 halves is very complicated, and there are a lot of considerations, and this is a wild and woolly, and I remember a board member who I won't name when I first started just said, stay away from the calendar committee. That is so hard. Nobody's ever happy with it completely. So I just want to say I know what a difficult exercise this is to get the balancing right of our school year, keep folks happy, honor the times and the rhythms of the community, as well as various different traditions and holidays. And it's certainly not perfect, but I really appreciate all of the work that you and if there's a chance to thank the folks who were on the calendar committee and did this wrestling, I would appreciate that. So with that, other thoughts, comments? It's the pleasure of the board. Board Member Blea.
Just out of curiosity, are there other options, or is this pretty much like the best option available based upon everything collected?
Member Blea, if I recall, last year, we had 2 dates that were days off that were earlier in the year, and at that time you guys said, let's just move them to May, and so we did. So there is that opportunity right now if you guys wanted to move any of the days off to a different month.
And if you would, tell me about snow days. Do we have any snow days built in? That's often a thing.
Right, snow days are built into the instructional minutes.
Okay, and how many?
It's looking like 2.
And then we would have to do synchronous or asynchronous online learning if we had a big snow year.
Correct.
Okay. Or other weather, because it's getting weird. Board Member Beta.
Thank you, President Noble. It seemed like all the questions that I had were answered as to why things are the way they are, so I'm fine with the way the calendar is. Do you want a motion? move for approval.
I'll go ahead and second. Is there further discussion? Vice President Bose, if you want to weigh in.
Well, I guess if I were to pick, a day off that maybe could be moved, I'm not really sure why that April 5th day is there. I remember like we have this year, I think spring break runs up to the Easter holiday, and so even there's not a Monday off after Easter this year. And that's not even, April 4th isn't even Easter that year. It's March 28th. So I'm not really sure why that's there. And I don't know where it would go instead. I'm sort of looking around. I guess I would I would put it back at the beginning of the year. People really, really, really don't like starting on Friday. I'm curious what attendance rates are actually like on that day. I remember when we switched to this and the rationale made sense of getting everyone, the first day of school is hectic and it's transition anyway. And so that makes sense. But also, most people just blow it off because they know it's kind of a wasted day. And for elementary folks, it's a short day anyway. I don't know.
Part of, and going back to that starting on a Friday, it was with the notion of like building relationships and icebreakers and getting to know kids so that they could just start on Monday and start.
And we are still doing SEL days? I don't see them identified on the calendar.
They're not identified in the calendar. We've been working with principals quarterly, and they'll just say, this week we're going to do this activity, or, yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate all the work that goes into this. I'm sorry to be critical. Just, it does seem really difficult to please everyone. Thank you for trying.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, adopting the calendar as presented. We'll go ahead. There's no further discussion. All those in favor of adopting the calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, thank you very much. Moving swiftly along, we are now at the acceptance of our fiscal year 2025 financial audit. And we have our team from the Jaramillo Accounting Group. Welcome. I think you're presenting briefly. Up to the podium, Audrey.
Good afternoon.
Oh, Beverly first. Okay, thank you very much.
Board President Noble, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Griffin. I would like to introduce the Jaramillo Accounting Group. They are our auditors, Audrey Jaramillo and Luis Garibay. Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Welcome, Ms. Jaramillo.
All right, thank you, and good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent, and we can't forget the real bosses here, the public, right? So good to see you all here. It's good to have turnout. And let's see. So I'm going to turn it over to Luis in just a moment to go over a PowerPoint. And then I will show you briefly, if they don't have the financial statement file keyed up, how to get to that through the state auditor's website. But if they have the financial statements, then they can pull that up after the PowerPoint. But it'll be good so that the members of the public can kind of see how to go through the state auditor's website. So I'm Audrey Jaramillo and this is Luis, and so pleased to be here this evening to go over the results of the fiscal year 25 audit. And this is our last year due to auditor rotation rules, and so it's very bittersweet. And we've certainly enjoyed our time here serving the district and working with the teams who have done a great job over the years, and so appreciate all of the efforts and collaboration that we've had together over the years. So with that, I'm going to let Luis go over the PowerPoint briefly. try to run through it, not to take too much time. And then I'll just hit a few very high points on the financial statements themselves. And I believe you have the bound financial statements, right? Okay. All right, just checking. Okay, Luis?
Hopefully I don't speak that loud. Anyway, good evening, President, Vice President, Superintendent, board members, management, and public. Buenas tardes. How's it going? I'll be presenting the June 30, 2025 financial statements. And I gotta click it. And right before I start, I just want to say I have the financials here. It's a good read at night if you guys want to fall asleep faster. Just place it right there. So I want to talk about communication. Obviously, and as Audrey was saying super briefly, the audit is very important to have a two-way communication with obviously management, and then obviously the communication with governance, of course, those charged with governance. And also it is very important for us to be independent from Santa Fe Public Schools. So that concludes slide 1. So what's the purpose of this communication? Well, under our generally accepted auditing standards, also known as GAS, there's this section called AU 380 where we have to identify those charged with governance. We also need to do an overview of the scope, timing of the audit, and then obviously convey those significant findings. Aside from that, we also have to, have training, proficiency, do field work, bother Beverly, of course, and then reporting the Santa Fe Public Schools financial statements in accordance with GAAP, which means generally accepted accounting principles. And then we also have to disclose pretty much everything, express our opinion, indicate character of our work, and responsibility as well. So as I was saying, independence, JAG is independent of Santa Fe Public Schools and ATC. And this is kind of like a neat picture we have here of our cycle. We have obviously the financial statements, which is this big book right here. And then from that, we also look at the UGG, which is a single audit. We'll also look at the component unit, in this case, ATC and the foundation. And then once we clean up all that stuff, we report it to the state auditor. It's probably our coolest animation right there. So 3 little balls. We have to look at the controls, the ins and outs, AR to payroll, etc. From that, we'll also look at the GASBs just to see if we're, up to date with statutes, etc. And then from there, we assess risk. I'll talk about risk in another slide. But all of this is obviously to determine if there's any fraud implied into the matter. So the scope of the audit obviously is to catch any material misstatements and to identify if they're due to error or fraud. The first week, we obviously assess all the risks. We determine our audit approach, and we do this DNI, which is design and implementation. From there, we go to the substantive analytics, count balances, compliance, and then we assist with the preparation of the financial statements. So really quick, we form our opinion, we form and express our opinion, and then we also audit the financial statements, but it does not relieve management or those charged with governance from their responsibilities. Aside from that, sorry, I'm having a little trouble kind of looking at it, but our goal is to obtain reasonable, not absolute assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And then this is like our cycle. We have our independent auditors report. Then we report compliance for each major program and internal controls over compliance required by uniform guidance. And then we aim for the unmodified, also known as the clean, also known as the unqualified, also known as the highest level of assurance. But I welcome that you guys look at the various opinions there is out there. Aside from that, we do the GAGA's report on the internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters. I'm just gonna skip this slide, but this is how we kind of do our responsibility under GAS. And then this is a cool part, in my opinion, but we do our consideration of materiality. We just determine whether they're due to error or fraud, or the materiality is based on auditor's approach and judgment overall. So we consider both quantitative and qualitative factors. Oh, this is a lot of info. I'll just touch on the good ones. So management's responsibility. Firstly, I want to say Beverly was spot on throughout the audit, but they have to look at the financial statements, identify federal awards, review and approval of financial statements, establish and maintain effective internal controls, etc. Aside from that, make all financial records and related info available to us. That's very important, of course. Identify significant vendor relationships, adjust the financial statements, and if there's any adjusting entries, of course, they have to pass those. D&I programs, controls to prevent and detect fraud. That's very important. And then obviously inform us about all known or suspected fraud, including allegations. And lastly here, I'm just gonna touch on obviously taking timely and appropriate steps to remedy any fraud, non-compliance, or abuse. Include audited financial statements with CFA and submission of data collection form. For this year under audit, there were 4 findings. Last year they had 5, so they were able to clear 1 finding. Now, as far as the charter schools, last year they had none, but this year there were 5 findings. And we also implemented the new accounting standard, as I was saying, the GASB 101, which is the compensated absences, which increased liability by $3.8 million. And thank you. Anything else, Audrey?
I saw some looks about the GASB 101. We were hoping they'd stop at 100, but they just kept going, right? And so GASB 101 does relate to compensated absences, and so any paid time off that's accrued, now the calculation changed and it increased the liability to the district on the books. And so sick leave and vacation and all of that is now an increased amount to the district. So that combined with, of course, the retirement amounts that get pushed onto the district's books as a liability, and leases and subscription-based IT arrangements and all the different GASBs that have been coming out in recent years really has led to, I guess, trying to see a better picture of how much the district is really committing to for its employees and to its vendors and everything. And so liabilities have increased quite a bit. But if you don't mind, we could go to just a web page. Are you allowed to browse? And just Google the State Auditor's Office, the New Mexico State Auditor's Office. Huh? Yeah, I just wanted to show everyone here how to find your audit reports real quick. And
that'd be wonderful. And I was going to ask if you might, for the members who are not on the audit committee, just say what our cleared finding is and what the 4 current findings are.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So if we go to, up in the right-hand corner, by the way, there is a report fraud button, like a hotline, anonymous fraud button. That's great. But right next to that is audit report search. And so if we just go in there and type in Santa Fe Public, and let's see if it brings them up. And search. And then here you go. So it goes back quite a few years, and it would be the top one there, the 2025. And on the right-hand side, we can say View, and then Get File. And it has all of the summary of that. And so anyone can go to State Auditor's website and look up any governmental entity in the state through this process here. Okay. So to the summary schedule of prior audit findings, and then if you don't mind opening up the file, I think it probably downloaded. So you just click on that file there. In the meantime, while that's pulling up, the resolved finding for the district was internal control over financial close and reporting. We had the 4 that were repeated, which was negative cash balances and activity funds, budgetary conditions, compliance with the School Personnel Act, and ERB contribution rates. Both of those last 2 are very minor compliance findings. And then last year, the charter did not have any findings, so they didn't clear any, obviously. So let's go down to page, let me pull it up here. 133 of the actual report, so the number at the bottom of the page, 133. We'll give you the 30-second overview of the audit. If you scroll down a little bit, let's check the page number. Okay, let's go to page 133. Oh, you have to scroll past the charter, sorry. Do I have anyone from the charter here this evening? Okay. Sorry, what?
Should I just bring one forward?
You can, yeah, sure. As you can see, these reports have so much detail. They have every single fund that the district has and the charter as well. And so let's go to, it may be just the page right before that. And yeah, go ahead here to the top. Okay, so we have our summary of auditor results for fiscal year 25. And we do have an unmodified or clean opinion, which is what you pay us for, is to look at things and give our audit opinion, like Louis said earlier. And no material weaknesses identified. We did have significant deficiencies, but no non-compliance material to the financial statements noted. And then on your federal awards, and in this report, there's a CFA, it's a schedule of expenditures of federal awards. It's really interesting. It tells you basically all the grants that the district received and spent and how much by every single grant. So we did test the special education cluster, IDEA B, and ELA. As far as federal programs, those were the major programs and had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and a clean opinion, which is the best opinion you can have on your federal awards as well. So now we can scroll down to the next page. Negative cash balances in activity funds. This is, the district has made progress in this area, but continues to clean up these negative funds. The challenge with this is that you essentially have to fundraise your way out of negative balances and can't use general fund once they go negative. So very important to have that controls over the activity funds. And let's scroll down 2 pages to the next finding. The district budgetary, one more. Thank you. And this shows the overages in the budget. And it is pretty difficult for a district this size to predict every single budget thing. And with bars being cut off prior to year end, it's pretty hard to get this perfect. But it is, even if you were off, just a few dollars, we're required to report any budgetary overages by major function in the expenditures. And the next page down. This is the finding on the School Personnel Act. And this one I'd really like to see go away. It's been hanging around a little bit, but there are so many requirements for training and signing of contracts 10 days prior to the start of school. That doesn't always happen, but this is a work in progress, and the district has made some progress on it. And then 2 pages down will be the next finding. And this is on the ERB contribution rates and just an error in a rate applied on this one. And then we can go to the charter, which is the next page. They also had budgetary finding. The Q4 report was submitted late and also had overspending of $890 in one of their functions. In the next page, the charter had cash reconciliation finding and stale data check policy on that one. The next finding, the charter financial close and reporting. There's been, some turnover and changes at the charter, and so struggled a little bit with the financial close and reporting, accounts receivable, and making sure that we got an accrual-based trial balance. So something to keep an eye on for this coming year, which I think Bev and Richard are happy to help them with anything they need. I'll volunteer you. No, no, Richard told me. So, and then the last, I think it's, no, 2 more. The travel and per diem. We did see that they reimbursed mileage of 70 cents per mile instead of the approved rate of 67 cents per mile. So that's a compliance finding. And then the ERB contribution calculations, we also saw overpayment to ERB. But overall, great progress over the years. And this year, the very big success was clearing the financial close and reporting finding, which had been, it's just a really good sign of progress when we can get all of our documents ready for audit timely, and the district has worked hard on journal entries and really done well, gotten cash balances in a healthy place. And so, good job. Thank you. Any questions for us?
Thanks very much. Go ahead, Board Member Blake.
Not necessarily a question, but I just want to say, I was on the audit committee a few years ago. I mean, I've been all over the place apparently. But one of the things that I really appreciate about this audit and about working with Santa Fe Public Schools and getting to see this is that the availability of the data and how quickly the data can become available to the auditor is critical. And I've always appreciated that there's no smoke and mirrors here. It's pretty much, here's the data, do what you got to do with it, and it's all available, accessible, and it's all right there. Other agencies don't do that, and there is a lot of smoke and mirrors, and there is a lot of dishonesty towards the public. But here, that is not happening, and I'm very proud to be a part of that, and I just want to commend Richard and Beverly for their work, and thank you guys for all the work that you have done over the years here. This is a really, it should be a routine thing, but a cool routine thing, because it really does show to me the health of internal systems. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Board Member. Also, thanks to Robert Martinez, who had played a really big part over the years, too. So,
I was going to say, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to you all at the Jaramillo Accounting Group. Really appreciate all the work over the years. And we did extend a year because this particular audit, if I'm not mistaken, covers 3 finance directors, 3 superintendents, and it has all continued to work, which I think is due in huge part to Ms. Aguilar, who has been a consistent presence along the way. Mr. Martinez, Mr. Halford, of course, came in and finished it up, as did Superintendent Griffin. But I also really want to give thanks to Dorothy V. Hill, who keeps us all on track, and of course the audit committee, the members whom we all have appointed, who serve without pay and without fanfare in doing this work and asking good questions. So truly, I'm full of gratitude for everybody, the team internally, the JAG team, and the committee, and the immense amount of work that goes into these hundreds of pages. That does have a lot of information available that's reasonably clear to the public, especially if you know where to look. So I appreciate that little tour. With that, I will go ahead and move acceptance, because we don't approve, of the fiscal year 2025 financial audit.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Again, thank you so much. It's been a great partnership, and thank you, Ms. Aguilar, and please, if you would all pass on the thanks to the rest of the team, and congratulations. It's been a lot of good work. Okay, moving swiftly along, Resolution 2025-2026-15, declaring supply asset surplus of acoustic pianos. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President.
Oh, sorry.
Deputy
I was gonna move for
Romero.
approval,
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Griffin. This is coming from our Fine Arts Department and asking about disposing some acoustic pianos. And if you look within the document, there are 4 items listed, and then we have the resolution presented.
Board Member Beta.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed or otherwise? Thank you very much, Deputy Superintendent. Now on to our New Mexico School Board Association 2026 Student Scholarship. We nominate 1 student for the NMSBA Scholarship, which has been worked on by Dr. Gonzalez and, sorry, that was the last one. Vice President Bose and Board Member Blea. Do you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Board President Noble. It was a pleasure to review the nominees from our high schools. We have such inspiring young people, and it was challenging to pick just one, but Board Member Blea and I reached some consensus and sent that name along to Alma. Do we announce that person?
We do.
Okay.
Is there any reason not to? I mean, it's an honor for our.
I think it's an honor. I'm happy, I don't have the student names here, I can pull them up. It was the student from Capitol High that we selected. I'm sure I can find her name. Give me one moment. Oh, that wasn't that one.
How many students did you look at, Board Member Blea? Do you know? 4? Okay. All of whom I'm sure were exceptional. I know this is a.
They really were. I mean, they all had just such different strengths. It was very diverse. They all had different strengths. They had their applications were all very, very different. And so it was interesting. It was, it wasn't like there was, I don't want to say there was discussion, basically. It wasn't like it was a tough decision, really. We have some really cool kids in this. This whole district is just really, this is a really cool opportunity, especially with the discussion item that's ahead. An opportunity with the audit and the Diversity and Equity Council and the work tonight. It really does show the strength of what we're doing here, and then our youth that are really performing exceptionally well and providing leadership within our community. It's really an honor to be able to be a part of those things.
And just to say, this is our nomination. During my time on the board, we did have 1 student be awarded the NMSBA, New Mexico School Board Association Student Scholarship, but it's pretty competitive. But I do also just want to say all of those 4 students who were nominated, and then the one that you all selected to move forward for the NMSBA nomination, I know are exceptional, and it's quite an honor. And of course, we hope our student wins, but it is a statewide competition, and there's, I think, very limited scholarships from an NMSBA. So yes. Go ahead, Vice President Bose.
Thank you, Board President Noble. Our nominee from Capitol High School is Aisha Santos. So congratulations to Aisha and all of the students who were nominated. As I said, they were all very, very impressive, and we wish Aisha the best of luck.
Absolutely. Superintendent, did you want to? Okay. So with that, is there a motion?
I move acceptance, approval of our nominee for the New Mexico School Board Association 2026 Student Scholarship, Aisha Santos.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we have nominated. Thank you very much, and thank you both for doing the work to review those. Next, we have on our action items, item F, Schools of Innovation, Gonzales Community School. Superintendent.
President Noble, board members, I'm very excited tonight to bring to you our first School of Innovation application. The resolution for Schools of Innovation was passed last May, and since then, as a district, we've been exploring this opportunity across several sites. Mr. Lopez is the first to submit a School of Innovation application, and I'm particularly proud of his plan to implement it in phases, with the first year focus on educating, communicating, and engaging the community. Thank you. Michael.
Good evening again, Superintendent Dr. Garcia, Dr. Griffin. Second time tonight, and members of the board. I too am very honored and excited to be able to contribute to this process tonight. Principal Lopez has put forward a thoughtful plan centered on expeditionary learning, a model designed to increase student ownership, deepen learning, and better connect what students are doing in school to the world around them. Just as important, this work reflects strong staff support and growing community partnerships, positioning Gonzales to serve as a model for what innovation can look like in Santa Fe Public Schools. I'd like to invite Principal Chris Lopez to share an overview of his School of Innovation proposal.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Griffin. My name is Chris Lopez. I'm the principal of Gonzales Community School. I want to also acknowledge member of Blaya's thoughts about our students, because I think this meshes well with what he was talking about. I'm here to present the school's application to be the first school in our district to become a school of innovation as contemplated by the board in resolution 2024/2025-19. As a member of the Reimagining Group formed by former Superintendent Garcia, I was excited to hear the ideas being generated around creating a framework for interest-based learning and more choices being offered for families around the district. As a leader of a school that often loses families at the middle levels to charter and private schools, we hear that different curriculum choices are often the root of these moves. This particular work with former Superintendent Garcia piqued my interest so much that I used it as my capstone project for my Aspiring Superintendents Academy that went on last year. What I found was startling to me. Nationwide, we lose 16 million enrollments at the middle grades. What this means for Santa Fe in the study that I received for my capstone project was school year 2021, which I imagine encompassed 21-22. We lost from our elementary schools about 37% of our students going from elementary to middle school. At our K-8s, the rate was 19.2% of our students. Some of these students returned at the high school level, which to me even further piqued my interest as to what is going on. So one of the things that I truly and strongly believe in are the youth of Santa Fe. I am somebody who grew up here. I love our kids. I consider myself a stalwart and a steward of public education writ large. I wanted to see what I could do to help stem that tide and create a stronger, more robust version of what we are already doing. I'm only in charge of one school. That school is Gonzales, so that is my charge. In this charge, I decided to look at what can we do for this. What I found was, and what data suggests, is Gonzales is continually on the cusp of breaking through to the next tiers of our proficiency rates. We're cuspy, as Beata likes to put towards me. I saw this as a twofold issue. The first fold being, okay, what can we do as the adults to change? The second fold of that is there a system in place that can help that? What I found in my studies was that expeditionary learning is a potential pathway to help both of these. With expeditionary learning, we are showing a way of teaching and learning where students create and explore things that feel real, meaningful, and which naturally leads to stronger engagement and pride in the knowledge of what the students build. In classrooms, students might test water from a nearby river and share their findings with local officials, build a public exhibit on Santa Fe history for families, or take on an issue like teen mental health and create something that helps their peers. They're not just completing assignments, they're creating something for a real audience, and they keep improving it until it's something they're proud of. A key part of this, and I think the thing that I take away from expeditionary learning, is the idea of the crew. Each of the stakeholders in the classroom at the school is a member of the crew. The crew works together, students, staff, administration, to create relationships, set goals, and support one another so that every student feels known, supported, and responsible for their own success, and also keep each other accountable to each other. What I often find, what comes to me when I am talking to a student, is they feel a distance between what they are doing and why they are doing it. There's a lack of ownership in that. The idea of the crew brings that ownership to an intrinsic place where the student can tell me as the administrator, I am doing this because it's meaningful to me and this is why. That's what I'm looking for. I am looking for creating this at Gonzales with the hope of being a trailblazer in the School of Innovation process so that we can tap into all of the capital that we have in Santa Fe with our young people. What we have already garnered support for this movement, as Superintendent Higley said, with our staff and a community partner in the Thornburg Foundation who is looking for, in our initial meetings, ways to change systems. This is a system change. I'm excited for the possibility of doing this at the school level and the opportunity it could provide for our students, community, and ultimately the world our kids will one day serve.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Go ahead, Board Member Blaya.
So first of all, we always talk about problems, and we always talk about this lack of enrollment, that problem here, and first of all, I really want to congratulate you for bringing a solution, something that's actually going to benefit our community as a whole, our students, and actually benefit the teacher communities at your school. So I just want to say thank you very much for actually thinking about ways to improve enrollment and to make Gonzales an attractive place to be, which is what I'm always hoping for, that our schools become the actual flagship schools within the community. So thank you very, very much for doing this and for your foresight and for actually looking at the Schools of Innovation program and saying, hey, I want to participate and this is how I want to participate. So it's not just another stupid buzzword. So I really appreciate it. So I don't really have a question other than to say is this implemented like next school year?
So it will be phased over 3 years. Next year will be the planning year. We will take that opportunity to work with our staff and with the funding that we're hoping to get, work with the the National Expeditionary Learning Consortium to provide professional development for our staff to really, what I tell people all the time is I don't want to just do things. I want to do them well. I don't operate in, let's just try it. I want to plan. I want to do this well so that it is lasting, it creates a legacy, and it really creates the pioneering, trailblazing idea behind the Schools of Innovation so that others can follow.
Vice President Bozay.
Thank you, President Noble. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. I have long known that you are an exceptional leader of the Community School of Gonzales, and your passion really shone through tonight. I was very moved and inspired that we all be stalwart stewards of public education. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that and for the excitement that you clearly have. My hope is everything that you've expressed here tonight for those students. And as you said, for this to become what we do at all of our schools, to tap into that potential that we know all of our kids have. It's just a matter of changing the way that we're delivering instruction and making it exciting and engaging and relevant. So kudos, and I can't wait to see what comes next. And for those that don't have the packet in front of them, it is of course online, but the cost considerations that are outlined, it seems very reasonable to me. I think it's in the $100,000 range over the 3-year period. And so for transforming education, that's a small price to pay, I think. Thank you.
I guess I want to say also, having worked with the Thornburg Foundation, who doesn't fund early childhood anymore, they're a very good partner. I do hope for that partnership. I also thought the costs were incredibly reasonable when I read this, but I guess I also want to say, it was sometime this week, it's been a little bit of a blur. I cried when I read this. It's so beautiful. It is, in so many ways, the culmination of a great deal of work. I appreciate the nod and the inspiration around the reimagining, the focus on middle schools. You know, for anyone who wasn't there in most of those days, Principal Lopez was. He was engaging. He was thinking creatively. And I will say, as a former Gonzales parent who had the benefit of talking to him about how teaching in middle school might work, I also know how profound, deep, but grounded this experience is, because fun fact, he taught middle school for a number of years at Gonzales. And I just want to say, I love this proposal. I love expeditionary learning. I mean, in early childhood, we work in a Reggio Emilia-inspired way, which is not dissimilar philosophically of being student-led and following that creativity. And even the group, I like the idea of the crew. I don't think that was in the proposal, but truly, you made my week when I read this to see what you're thinking and what you're doing, and to be honestly, as you say, I appreciate that thinking about trailblazing as a school of innovation, because this is above and beyond what I had imagined or hoped for in seeing a school of innovation application. And to think about, you know, again, that student-led, that unlocking, that organic process, that collaboration and teamwork is, it sort of seems like everything I want, and maybe I haven't been creative enough recently in thinking about education, but this really, for me personally, brought back some fire of what it's about and how it can be reasonably clear and simple and student-centered. Congratulations on an incredible idea. Thank you for all your work and inspiration as a teacher, as a leader, as someone engaging in the reimagining process, and as a trailblazer in the School of Innovation idea. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move approval of the, that we designate Gonzales Community School as a school of innovation and entering year one as planning and training year in 26-27.
I'll second.
Any further discussion, comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Here we are. Board discussion and possible action. Roman numeral 9 on our agenda. Item A, consideration of name of Cesar Chavez Elementary. As this is a board discussion and possible action, I will go ahead and frame it up. Superintendent, of course, weigh in at any given point if you want to. I think we have all seen the news. We heard some of our public comment tonight. So I wanted to put this on the agenda for us to discuss publicly, as we can't discuss anything privately unless it relates to some very specific categories. So with that, I would say, I guess, I would love to hear from the board on any thoughts as to what we can do in short, medium, and long-term ways here on the school that is currently named Cesar Chavez Elementary. Anybody want to start? Yes, Board Member Blea.
Thank you, President Noble, Superintendent Griffin, and Vice President. You know, I don't get sweaty palms, but tonight I have sweaty palms because of this item. You know, to have had a hero in my home growing up for all my life, I've had a week to live with this absolute tragedy. You know, when I was a kid, you know, I would ask my parents, what am I? Am I American? Am I Mexican? What am I? Like, you know, I didn't know because we spoke Spanish at home, but at school I had to, you know, speak English. And so, you know, my dad said, you're a Chicano. And that term not only became a political movement, it was an identity to me. And Cesar Chavez, especially when Senator Kennedy, you know, met him during the hunger strike, that was iconic because, as you know, John F. Kennedy is the only Catholic president, and my family is Catholic. And so, as a matter of fact, my family knows me as John John because of John John Kennedy. So, you know, the whole idea of Cesar Chavez and what he was in our home, over the years, unfortunately, I learned more and more about him, about the movement. Several years ago, I had to speak, it was a long time ago, with Jimmy Santiago Baca about why the Chicano movement failed. And at the time, I didn't know about this, obviously. But the idea that the Chicano movement failed, to me, never really sat well. Because, as you know, Raquel introduced herself and introduced her presentation speaking Spanish. President Noble had the grace to allow I'm sorry, I remember her last name, but to speak in Spanish as well. So, you know, Mr. Acosta spoke earlier about social justice. So to me, the Chicano movement didn't fail. The Chicano movement became woven into who we are as a community here in northern New Mexico. We still have our land grant issues that we have to address. We also had Reyes Lopez Tijerina, who actually was a horrible person, really, and I'm sorry to the family, but he really was, but he did something. And Cesar Chavez did something. Dolores Huerta did something. These people did something. And so although in the Chimes investigation it was corroborated and to the women who were victimized and who are the survivors and to Ms. Huerta, I sincerely send my deepest just apologies for, you know, having elevated a person who just traumatized them. I didn't know, obviously, and so this idol falling in my personal temple has been very difficult. And so one of the things that has always bothered me about Mr. Chavez was that he really wasn't about allowing the immigrant community into the movement, into the farm workers movement. He stood against the immigrant population, and I think that never really was talked about. And so when we talk about the Southside community that is currently his namesake school, I don't think that we did a good job as a community in naming that school in the first place, because it is an immigrant population. There are immigrant students there. And to say that that was like honoring into the idea of a holistic education about our people, that's the kind of stuff that we need to do a better job of, not just elevating a name because we think he did something. There was reasons why the movement failed, and part of it was misogynistic, traumatizing leadership. And that's what I was telling a Japanese professor, his name was Professor Sai. I told him our leaders were misogynistic, they were horribly traumatizing, and they were very limiting in how they defined who could participate in the movement. So we have an opportunity tonight to allow our South Side students and families to actually have agency in what they identify within their school. I do appreciate that there are policies in place to do this, and I do appreciate that there are methods to do this, but I really do think that that the community as a whole, locally within the community on the South Side, they should determine the name of the school, not us. We should not have the idea that we should place our ideas of who is better than somebody else on top of a name. The community knows. They're the ones that live there. They're the ones that go to school there. They're the ones that break bread together there. So they're the ones that should name their school, and we should allow and create opportunities for the community to do that.
Board Member Beta.
Thank you. I couldn't say it any better than Board Member Blea. We do need to change the name of the school, but we also do need to take advantage of the opportunity we have now to address some of the issues that have been plaguing the South Side for years and years. I appreciate Miguel Acosta and the work he continues to do on the South Side. And I think we should take the comments and the information he's provided to us and see how we can take this and look at it as an opportunity to re-engage the community, to have these types of discussions. Because Board Member Blea, you're right. I mean, if you grew up and you were told you were a Chicano because we weren't Mexican, we weren't Spanish from Spain, so I had the same questions for my family. What are we? And they said, we're Chicano. And the hero was Cesar Chavez. And that was like the Martin Luther King for the Chicanos, for the people. But it was interesting. And I do remember reading and hearing, too, his stance against the immigrants and them taking the jobs away from the farm workers. My family, we boycotted grapes and bananas. My dad wouldn't let us eat grapes. I remember that growing up. And then he used that as an opportunity to teach us about what was happening in California and Arizona and even here in New Mexico. But I found it interesting what you said, though, about, well, we have a large immigrant community going to a school named after an individual who was anti-immigrant. Maybe that's not completely correct. I don't know. But again, this is a real opportunity for even myself to learn more. And so I think, again, going back to Mr. Acosta and his comments and his kind of outline or suggestion for how we move forward, I think this is also an opportunity. And so I would, too, be interested in hearing maybe from the superintendent about what's the immediate steps we take, and then as President Noble said, what do we do next, and then long-term, what can we do to, again, turn this negative into something that is ultimately a positive for the entire community, not just the South Side. Thank you.
And also to piggyback off of Member Beta's comment, not only in terms of what we can do, but also how do we do it in such a way as to where we don't re-traumatize people. Because one of the things that I've had to do over my lifetime, I'm sorry for my mouth being dry, it's just it's tough, but one of the things that I've had to do over time is separate my faith from the church, because the church is filled with evil, and I don't want to move forward in a path that's going to force us, when talking about what happened, to traumatize our communities. We have to do that respectfully. We don't want to re-traumatize or traumatize anyone.
Vice President Bozay.
Thank you, President Noble. Thank you, board members, for sharing your experience. I really value and appreciate that. And I want to extend gratitude to all of the community members that reached out over the last week or so, especially to Mr. Acosta, who I know represents and collaborates with the immigrant community at a very deep, meaningful level. So I appreciate that. I know that it's emotional labor to explain all of the things and you know, for people who didn't have that experience growing up, I just want to say that I honor that and recognize that and appreciate everything that you've shared with us. We did all receive a letter this afternoon from our Santa Fe legislative delegation in support of the name change. I am also in full support of that, and I do support it being a community-driven process that is not, it's not something that I think needs to come from the top down, but I'm happy to listen and learn and participate as is appropriate. Thank you.
And I'll just add my thanks to all the folks. I've had a lot of incredibly profound conversations. And I really appreciate hearing from the women, the Chicana women. Ms. Torres, thank you for all you do at Cesar Chavez all the time. Mr. Acosta as well, thank you. And again, everybody who's reached out and shared their time and experiences, and sometimes trauma and shock. And you know, there's a lot wrapped up here. I really appreciate that, and I would say, you know, we can certainly hear from the superintendent any ideas. You know, logistically, we have a short amount of time left in the school year. We do have one sort of random idea I had is, of course, you know, if it seemed appropriate, the board could select a temporary name while engaging a committee. And what that committee looks like. I really would like to hear from kids and the community at the school most of all. I believe in the kids. I believe in listening to them, and I certainly do also want to hear from families and staff and the community at large. But one thought, I'm pretty sure they are the White Tigers. Was that, you know, that's an identity that is already a part of the school, that if we wanted to look at a temporary name, we could think about something like that. But ultimately, it does sound as if we're all agreed on putting together, and of course, we can change our policy if we need to. And then there's the AR, Administrative Regulation, I think is what an AR stands for. And that one has much more detail to it. But of course, that is administrative. That is, in my view, at the superintendent's discretion. So I think we should talk about, if we can, what a committee looked like, and if there's any temporary action we take to rename the school. I've even wondered, you know, and any physical changes. If we, you know, you can get a weatherproof banner that would certainly last about 6 weeks, probably on the outdoor of the school. I don't know if this is something we want to consider or not, but superintendent, I guess at this point, if that seems acceptable to the board, we'd love to hear thoughts from you on anything you want to say.
President Noble, board members, I really appreciate the suggestion to implement a temporary name. It gives us time to be thoughtful and really engage the community. If we go ahead and the board decides to direct me to start the renaming process, we have 4 or 5 dates set up to be able to engage the community, and the turnaround was to bring it to you by the May board meeting. But the temporary name gives us time. It really allows us to spend some summer engagements, making sure that we have really engaged the students and brought a lot of community to the table to think through what we can do to change the name.
And I think it's embedded here that part of that is using even the moment as an educational moment. And I do agree with both of our board members there, if I may, thank you, that we do need to take the moment, as we've been called to do, to work on doing better in terms of the education, the context, and all of that. Go ahead, Board Member Blaya.
Would it be possible to hear from Ms. Torres and Miguel about what the short-term name could be?
If you all are willing, I would certainly be
If
happy
you
to
have any
invite you
suggestions
to
to the temporary.
the podium, Ms. Torres. We got to have you on the microphone for anyone watching.
Homeland Security needs to get this on tape. I think the idea of a temporary name, White Tigers Elementary School, is a great idea. I don't know that in 2 months you're going to get the kind of engagement that has lasting power. You know what I mean? Because most folks think about engagement as like, let's pull everybody together, put some red dots and green dots over here, and pick something, and then we're done, right? That's not engagement, right? That's participation in an activity, and that's how we end up getting a lot of the decisions that we get. The process really should be based on an opportunity for young people, for staff and families to actually engage in how do you have conversations that are based on values, right? That are based on context, that are based on history. For example, even, like they were mentioning, most folks at the school, and we have a great run, the experiences that we're hearing about now on Friday nights in soccer, families know the principal. The principal knows the families. They talk, they engage, they have fun, they laugh. It's the kind of leadership that we haven't had there for a while, for a long while. And it's the kind of leadership that can produce, if given the opportunity. This is an opportunity. It comes from something tragic, like you've mentioned. But they don't just not know who Cesar Chavez was or who Dolores Huerta is, et cetera. They don't even know the context of decisions, for example, around why a decision was made to be undocumented immigrant or anti-immigrant in the first place, right? That they were trying to get support from the unions, and part of the agreements with the AFL-CIO for the farm workers to be recognized was to take the same position that the unions had, right? It wasn't necessarily being anti-immigrant. It was a strategic decision, but it goes down in history. He was anti-immigrant. Those are the kind of things that kids should be learning about. Why? Because that's problem solving, right? It's thinking, it's strategic relationships, it's figuring out how do you get from here to there, and what kinds of decision-making agreements or, the other processes. Our kids aren't learning these things, right? They know how to do these things, right? They know the technology, they know how to get from one app to another, and how to hide what they're doing. But we haven't been explicit in terms of teaching how to think and how to relate and how to work together. So I don't know that trying to get something done by May would be the best thing to do. I think, between now and May, conversations about why we're in this situation and getting the support to the school to be able to have those kinds of conversations in a way that's productive, in a way that feeds learning, that supports, because staff can't take this on. It's not part of they weren't trained to do this. They don't know the history. They don't know the context, right? There's some support that has to be brought to the school. And has been mentioned, right? There's some triggers, obviously, for us, for lots of reasons, right? But folks that have been victimized in one way or another, that has to be supported and dealt with as well, right? So it's changing the name immediately, right? And make sure that the community knows that you've made that decision and that it's being made for the right reasons, and then taking the time to learn how to engage in a process that then leads to an identity that the children, the families, and the community, and it was reported erroneously, right? It said it was a Tierra Contenta schools. Most of the students actually come from Riverside. They come from the mobile home parks. They don't come from the immediate community, right? Those are some of the folks that our principal from Gonzalez School was talking about, right? That they choose to not be at that school. Why? Because it's filled with immigrant kids, right? All those kind of things have to be part of the conversation. All that has to be part of the understanding, and a real decision has to be made by the children, the staff, the families, and the community about this is the thing that we can rally around. This is the flag that we could wave. This is the thing that's going to drive and motivate what we're doing at the school. And people will then decide, you know, and I know the principal's decision, other people will then have to decide, do I want to be here at this school or not, right? And that really has to be an invitation as well. If we're reconstituting the school around certain values, principles, history, and trajectory, right? It's not just renaming. That's where it starts. That's where the work starts. That's not where the work ends. Then people will have to make decisions about, can I commit to doing it or not? And if not, maybe I need to move to a different school. And we're ready to support in any way possible.
Ms. Torres?
Well, I'm thinking of imagery, which our community understands fairly well. And I am thinking that a temporary name could be White Shell Water Place. It's a native name. It's tied to the land. It acknowledges who we are, where we come from, and it can mean cleansing. It can mean growing. It can mean a lot of things. And that can be the starting point for the discussions of where do we go from here. Because we have had a lot of changes in our leadership. And really, Megan, you cannot leave. You just can't. We've been changing every 2 years, and it's crazy. And we need a strong woman to be at the helm, and we need to just make things in a way that are not confronting, but also give us the opportunity to feel the importance of where we are moving towards. And I think if we use that name, maybe that can give us the imagery that we need to start our work in that regard. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Torres.
If I could add one more thing, because she just gave me something to think about. What if instead of naming the school, you name the community? Los Tigres from White Shell Water Place. You know, and have the conversation start from there, so that people are then claiming a name for themselves, right, and an identity for themselves, right? Instead of an identity and a name for the school. Just a thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McCormick, do you want to, I'd like to invite you up if you're into it, to share any thoughts. Megan McCormick is the principal of currently named Cesar Chavez Elementary. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Griffin. Thank you so much. I appreciate that this is an important decision that we're making for our school, and I feel very fortunate that we have a strong district team that is going to be supporting our school, or that I'm understanding will be there to support our community as we think about what is the best way to support our students in this moment. And I really like the idea of having a plan for the short term, giving our community a chance to process, and then thinking also about a solution for long term. I think that we have, again, an opportunity to engage with the community. It would be, I think, a wonderful, it would be wonderful to start the new school year with a renewed energy and a new name for our school for the 26-27 school year. If engaging students and staff is something that we would like to prioritize, I believe that we should do that now before the end of the school year and think about how we could continue that engagement throughout the summer. And I agree that thinking about how can we intentionally plan opportunities for the community to come together to learn and to share their experiences and opinions in a meaningful way.
Go ahead. Thank you, Ms. McCormick. Go ahead, Board Member Rebeta.
President Noble, I think we just leave it with White Tigers for now because we're already getting into May. I kind of had the same thought with the White Shell, White Place was, oh, we already have a name then. I don't want to leave that impression like we have a new name. I think that should be considered as a permanent name. The other thing I want to offer is as this school's in my district, so I don't mind taking the lead from the board, like you talked about a committee or to be sure that we do engage the community, and then of course other board members are welcome, Board Member Blea, to work with me. But yeah, from as a board representative, I would like to be very active in the community engagement and the meetings and helping the superintendent and Mr. Acosta and the groups on the south side get organized and get this work underway, and then I could report back to the board as need be.
Thank you, President Noble. Thank you, Member Beta. Whatever I can do to help, I will absolutely do to help. The thing is, it's funny because as we're talking about that, listening to Ms. Torres and Ms. McCormick, and this is what, and Miguel, this is what the movimiento on a whole was supposed to be about, an inclusive way to solve problems. It wasn't supposed to be about hero worship. And so I think I want to commend the board really for looking and being community oriented, because this is really what it's supposed to be about, and it shows that it's bigger than any one perpetrator or anyone who conducts evil acts. So the movement still exists, and I think we're witnessing it here in this room tonight, so thank you.
President Noble, do you need a motion from the board, or?
I think we do.
Okay, then I will move that we immediately remove the name Cesar Chavez from the school. We will temporarily just go with White Tigers, which is the mascot, and then we'll immediately start on an engagement plan for the community for that'll result in a new name for the school, but hopefully a lot more engagement and a transformation really of the school and the south side in general. Thank you.
Before I second, does that mean that the name will be removed immediately, like over the weekend or something? Like, will it be taken down immediately?
Can you at least go ahead and second so we can
Okay, I'll
continue
second, and then he'll go.
discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Superintendent, do you want to talk about thoughts on timeline and that sort of thing?
Mr. Romero, would you like to come up and speak to the quickness, the swiftness of either covering up the name or taking down the name? I know we've got spring break starting next week, and that we should be able to have some people to the school very quickly.
Superintendent Griffin, President Noble, members of the board, I think we can work on removing or covering up the name in the immediate future, and then work on a White Tigers banner that'll take a few weeks to produce. Yes?
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Deputy Superintendent.
Sorry, I just want to also add that tomorrow afternoon, we will be meeting with the staff. We've invited Jen Jefferson to that as well, to meet with the staff to ensure the conversations are supportive. But then also after that, I've invited Marissa Bonifer with Assistant Superintendent Senna to do a walkthrough of the building so that we can begin immediately covering up murals, but then also painting and pulling down pictures and signs within the school.
Great. Maybe asking students for creative ideas. Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Ready to vote? Okay. On the motion to immediately rename and all the very nice and clear things that Board Member Abate said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or otherwise? Okay. We have a temporary name and a community engagement process to detail going forward. Thank you very much. Okay, now we move on to item B, 2025-2026, Board of Education Committee appointments to CRC and audit. Does anyone have nominees? Go ahead, Vice President Bose.
President Noble, I do not have a nominee.
Okay. Anything else on the nominees to the CRC or Audit Committee? Okay, I wanted to, on board discussion and possible action, if two of you all agree with me, I'd like to ask the superintendent for an update at a future meeting on what we're doing about bus drivers. I get a lot of texts about bus routes being canceled. I'm seeing a couple
I
nodding heads.
wholeheartedly
Yeah,
agree.
completely agree.
Okay, we'd like to hear about bus drivers.
Yes.
Anything else for board discussion and possible action? Moving on to advanced planning then. Anything, Superintendent, we should change or adjust?
Board President, it looks like we are good to go.
I think that's right. I want to double check. We did agree April 6th at noon that we are holding for that possible discharge hearing. Okay. And then we have a CRC, but our next board meeting is our executive session special meeting on the 4th of April. And then our next regular meeting, which is not really a regular meeting, it'll be a study session on the Finance Committee to look at our budget on April 16th. All right. If there's nothing else on advanced planning, with that,